Hey everybody, it's Van Allen Plexico, your host for another exciting episode of All of the Avengers. As always, I would point you to www.avengersassemble.net, www.avengersassemble.net, one of the oldest comics related websites on the entire internet. Gosh, it was established in the fall of 1995, so 05, 15, going up on our 28th year. Can you imagine? We're coming up on the 30th anniversary in just a couple of years. It's quite remarkable here at the end of 2022. So today we're going to go straight on into the action and look at issue 24 of the Avengers. And let me go ahead and share the screen so that we can do that. There we go. All right. So when we, and by the way, if you do go to www.avengersassemble.net, you can find all sorts of stuff there, including links to all of our previous episodes where we've looked at Avengers 1 through 23, plus a few other odds and ends. But if you want even more access to other issues that we've covered that have not been available to the general public, then click on the link there to become a patron. And patrons get access to bonus episodes and other, and maybe even get to come on and co-host the show with me and talk about an issue that's really, a fond remembered issue that they have. So, and I've had a number of co-hosts come on already, but right now we're trying to make some progress through going into, I guess, the third year issue-wise of the Avengers. One thing I did notice is that this issue is dated January 1966. Now, the Avengers began in 1963. So in the space of inside of 4 calendar years, the Avengers have done 24 issues. So not quite an issue every 2 months, but more than that, more than an issue every 2 months, but not quite an issue every month. That's just Marvel's publishing schedule, how it was back in the early mid-60s. Again, tying this into real life, this is January of 66. It was probably being written toward the end of 65. I may have mentioned before in terms of like things like James Bond, that was the year of Thunderball. And this is just before the next year where You Only Live Twice comes out. We're still in the Sean Connery period of that. In terms of presidents, we are still in the Lyndon Johnson era and would be throughout the rest of the 60s until 69 when Nixon comes in. And we're, the moon race is underway, the space race against the Soviet Union. And so there are certain, science fiction elements to everything just about that Marvel was doing during this period. But interestingly, one of the things I love about the Avengers during this period and the things that Stan and his artist collaborators were doing was there was a lot of, I don't want to say fantasy, but just kind of a lot of cosmic, it's like a blending of fairy tale structure with combat and science fiction and all that together. Like, what we've seen in this 2-part Kang story is this sort of like a classic, like a Robin Hood story, of the villain that wants to marry the beautiful princess that doesn't want to marry him because he's a bad guy, And so, but instead of Robin Hood, we have Hawkeye, right, and Captain America, kind of in that noble role, and then Quicksilver and the Scarlet Witch. And another thing that I'm going to mention here, and we're going to get to it in a little bit, is that we have the first of what kind of becomes an on and off tradition, I would argue, of Kang starting out as like the biggest Avengers villain, but then pretty before the story is over, he ends up teaming up with him against some other villain. Certainly Avengers Forever that Kurt Busiek and Carlos Pacheco did, really made a lot out of that idea of Kang needing to team up with the Avengers. I wrote a story for the AvengersAssemble.net website, 20 years ago, 15 years ago. Where I had Kang needing the help of the Avengers and teaming up with them to go up against a bigger enemy. And so that kind of becomes a thing where Kang is so much of a big villain, but that he's even willing to help or be on the Avengers side. And we do see that a few times later, as we will be encountering as we continue on of reading all the Avengers. He has a nobility about him, right? He thinks of himself as a noble ruler. So even though the Avengers see him as like an evil supervillain, he sees himself, as the hero of his own story. And that's to a large degree different from somebody like Ultron, who is probably the other, main Avengers villain, because Ultron is just evil, right? I mean, he's all out for himself. There's no nobility to him. Any nobility he ever shows is just the way he's written, the idea that he thinks he's superior, but he's just he's basically a mechanical monster. Kang is not a monster. Kang is just a dictator, a conqueror who thinks he's doing the right thing, pretty much. And so that frees him to be able to team up with the Avengers occasionally. The other thing I wanted to mention before we get into this issue is we're continuing, and it wasn't always this way, I don't think. I mean, not through the previous issues we've looked at, but for the last several issues, I think it really started when Iron Man and Thor and Giant Man and the Wasp left and left Captain America to form a new team with to be the Cap's Kooky Quartet. That's, I think, when Stan decided on this formula of a 2-issue story, and the first issue sets up the problem, sets up the menace, and then leaves you with a cliffhanger of the Avengers in big trouble. And then the second issue, the Avengers rally, they find an ally or they free themselves or something. There's some other factor usually that figures in. And by the end of the story, they win. And so every pair of issues is like, oh, the Avengers lose. Hey, look, they come back. And we saw that this time. The previous issue was called Once an Avenger, but it was about Captain America leaving and then coming back. And this one, just a perfect title for what we've been talking about, right? From the Ashes of Defeat. Just like the second Power Man issue was, I forget exactly what it was called, but it was the same type of thing, things went bad and now they've come back. So all right, so that continues for a while, I guess, as long as Stan is writing it. We'll see. 2 issues is probably as much of a continued story as you could really ask for the A plot back then. All right, so let's go ahead and get into this issue 24, which is the second issue in the Kang story. I guess this is the second big Kang story. And by the way, they're still playing up the idea of we did have Ramatut. They're still playing up the idea of that Kang could be Doctor Doom. He could be somebody else. He has connections to the past, the future. Stan just loves this idea of we don't know exactly who Kang really is, but he drops a lot of hints. All right, here we go. So I love this cover. My only issue with this cover, I love the red Avengers logo and then the blue with the yellow from the Ashes of Defeat. They always do these banners to make it seem really big and important. The only problem I think I really have with this cover as it was originally presented is the coloring. I like the idea it's in this white field just to kind of highlight the action and not have to have any background distracting away from it. I like that. But I don't love that, like, most of the bad guys are... I'm going to get rid of this thing. I don't like the idea that most of the bad guys... I don't know what I just got rid of. I'm trying to get rid of stuff so it can... I'll get it. Oh, hide toolbars. I bet that'll do it. There we go. Okay, I just wanted to get rid of some of the distractions there. Okay, so yeah, they're all kind of in purple. It makes them a little monotone. I wish that they were all in different colors here. Uh, and they never seem to. I don't know why they keep coloring Wanda's outfit different colors on the cover. I've never understood that, but maybe so it doesn't blend into Cap's shield or something. I don't know. But anyway, nice cover. I'd like to see it recolored. Oh, what a great splash page. There's Kang with the big banner behind him from the Ashes of Defeat. And I'm just going to go through this issue and talk about some of the important moments and there's a couple of very historical Avengers moments in this. Some of the dialogue and some of the way the characters are acting. Once again, Stan Lee and Don Heck with Dick Ayers inking and Artie Simek once again lettering. Once again, we don't have any information on the colorist, although I believe, and let me just see, I'm gonna add in a little. I'm gonna call an audible here during our live broadcast, and I'm going to see if I can go to the. Where is it? Yeah, there's the Marvel database. Let's get just a couple of doodads here about. Well, that's a character when. That's not what I wanted. Oh well, I hate to do this on live video. I realized that I should have thought of this first, but I thought there was a database that had. I think that what's happening is. Oh, I see what I did. All right, I've gone to. Okay. I just want to get a couple of doodads. It really doesn't want to cooperate, does it? Oh, here we go. I realize this makes for fantastic video, but I think I found what I'm looking for. Oh, and it's just a cover. Great. Ah, here we go. Okay. So this oh yeah, Stan Goldberg is listed as the colorist. And I just wanted to find that out because I felt like that he needed a credit. We've talked about this all along. This issue was actually released on November the 11th, 1965. So it was on the shelves for most of November, all of December before it was cover dated January. They would do that so that issues could stay out longer without seeming like they were already old. I don't think there's anything of note here, so I'm going to just get rid of that. Okay. Sometimes there's interesting information on those index pages and sometimes there's not. Okay, so where we've left off is that Kang is inside the fortress of Ravonna and her father, who are kind of like a little independent kingdom on, I guess, Earth of the future or something. And Kang has his giant army outside that he's assembled across time. They can't get into this kingdom. And basically, Kang has been leaving this kingdom independent and alone to curry the favor of Ravonna because he's in love with her and wants to marry her. But of course, she really only puts up with this to protect her kingdom and doesn't really care anything for Kang. And now that Kang has offered to marry her, we're waiting to see, will she say yes and he'll call off his army, or will she say no and he will have his army attack the city, this kingdom? So the enemy does attack, but Kang is like, I did not desire this action. It was forced upon me, but there can be no turning back. So he leaves and he gets out of there using his, this is not clear, he uses his gas finger glove thing to allow, this is Kang, allows himself to escape somehow. Quicksilver can't find him. Kang has made good his escape under cover of the smoke. Now, The thing that's interesting, he leaves the city and goes out to join his armies using a smoke screen. But if this bubble is impenetrable that his armies can't even get through it, how does he go through it? And it's not his force field or bubble or whatever. It's Ravonna's kingdom's defenses. So maybe it only works one way. Maybe you can go out through it, but you can't come back in. I'm not sure. Anyway. And wouldn't it have been more helpful to Kang's army for him to stay in there and sabotage from inside the force field rather than going outside where he can't get through the force field? That part is not entirely clear to me, but okay. So one theme that runs through this issue I thought is interesting is, remember, Captain America left the Avengers at the beginning of issue 23, last issue. And throughout this issue, he is back in full Steve Rogers Captain America form. He's giving orders. He's bossing people around. And they're all just like, oh, I'm being bossed around by Captain America. Give me some more of that, baby. Give me some more being bossed around. You are the man, Cap. You are the man. Even when these guys are calling him a savage in a few pages, they're still like, yeah, you're a, you know, like 1 minute they're like, you're a dumb savage. Why should I obey you? And then like 2 panels later, they're like, you are the man, right? Clearly you were born to command armies. Tell me what to do and I'll do it. You know, oh, Captain America. So I really like the sort of short character arc that Steve goes on through these 2 issues. The other Avengers, nothing. Hawkeye is annoying, as always. Quicksilver is worried about his sister and, as usual, seems to like get lost for a while and then come back. That happens a lot. And, of course, Wanda, as always, doesn't really use her powers the way she could and is like very worried they're going to run out or something. I don't understand it, but that's the direction that Stan always went with her. So, okay. And there's twice that Hawkeye does get to tell somebody they talk too much. I'm not sure the deal there, but he doesn't like Ravonna's military advisor, and he tells him that. And then later on, he's going to say that to one of Kang's guys. Not a lot to say. Well, speaking of a lot to say, now that has got to be an all-time panel. Look at this. There's 4 panels on this page, which is not many for this era, honestly. But there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 8 word balloons on this one panel, and it's a good thing that Don Heck left a lot of room around the outside of the panel. Stan must have said, leave me a lot of room here because I'm going to need it. Okay. So Cap kind of rallies them to not give up, but to fight. That's cool. Good Captain America moment. Yeah, I shall follow your command, Avenger, for there is no doubt you were born to lead. This is the guy that on the previous page was saying, we should surrender immediately. Oh my gosh. So there goes Cap, giving people a backbone. All right, Kang's forces attack. And he uses some futuristic weapon to go through the force field or the bubble, whatever it is. Meanwhile, Quicksilver randomly sees a woman with a baby running, and he tries to rescue her, but he gets zapped and gets knocked out. It's later going to take her and her family using some kind of herbs on Quicksilver. Hey, it was the 60s. She's going to use the herb on Quicksilver to revive him, but we'll see that later. So Cap is kind of like trying to gather information here, rally the troops. Here comes the flying soldiers, and the defenses that Ravonna's kingdom has don't last 3 panels. And so the dad says, we're all doomed still, yet there may be time to spirit the princess to safety. Cap says, but what of the battle? And Ravonna says, no, I shall not desert my people. If they die, I die with them. My life is their life. I shall never flee from Kang. Well, here comes Kang's armies through the wall, and there's a battle. And again, I'm going to not really a lot interesting here. We've all seen Hawkeye shoot arrows cleverly. This is a trope we've seen a million times. I think we've probably seen it a million times, even in 1965, 66, where he misses And the bad guys are like, ha, 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 he's a terrible shot. He missed. And then it does something behind them. If you guys are from the future, surely you must have seen this a bajillion times. He should have shot it. And they're like, oh, Hawkeye, we know your tricks, right? We know that you shoot things past people and then they do something to us from behind. So they all turn around to deal with it. And then he just like shoots them straight on. That would have been cool. I guess there's not enough panels for that, but that would have been funny. Okay. So as always, the Avengers start to lose before they win. The last one standing is Wanda. Wanda inexplicably says, they do not yet, or thinks, they do not yet realize the true extent of my hex power, but I shall not use that power now. The longer I wait, the more potent it shall be later. So they tie her up, and I'm like, what are you waiting for? What if he kills you all right now? Wanda, you have the power to rescue everybody, and you just decided, no, I'm just not going to use it. I'll wait and use it later. And Kang basically says, I could have killed you all right now, but instead imprison them. I shall decide their fate at my leisure. Now, I respect that about Kang. He's a conqueror of leisure, right? He doesn't have to be in a hurry on anything. He's like, I've defeated the Avengers. Big deal. Lock them up. We'll figure out what to do with them later. What he wants is Ravonna. And Ravonna's like trying to figure out what to do. And meanwhile, Quicksilver tries to get up and leave, but he can't. He's too wounded. And this lady's going to go get the herbs. All right. Now, Kang and his minions are confronting Ravonna, but Baltag, commander of your elite guard, launches a rebellion. He basically says to Kang, he's basically jealous. Baltag says to Kang, it's her or us, your sire. Either you bend over backwards for this woman, or you have us as your tough guy minions. But you can't have both, right? Because if you're all bending over backwards over a woman, then you're clearly not the guy we thought you were, and so we're not going to follow you anymore. And Kang is like, I should kill you all for such insolence, but because I'm so happy with my girlfriend now, even though she doesn't like me, I'm going to let this go and spare your lives. Be gone and be grateful I did not smite you down where you stand. So now the leaders that were conspiring against Kang get together again, and they're like, Kang is bluffing. Together we can take him down. While he's fawning over that girl, let's attack. And so they try to kill him, and he fights back. And he's worried that, I guess somewhere in here, Baltag must escape. It's not clear yet, but so now we have this summit meeting where Kang comes to and Captain America get together and decide to cooperate, because he says Ravonna is all that matters to me. It kind of sounds like the Kingpin talking about Vanessa, doesn't it? Ravonna, Vanessa, she's all that matters to me. I'll stop my conquering ways briefly to rescue her. And Cap says, remember, we'll be watching you every minute. If you try to cop out on your bargain, you'll have us to deal with. But then he thinks to himself immediately, I don't expect Kang to break his word. He's much too proud. But I have to say something to keep Wanda's mind off her brother, if only he'd show up. So Cap said that about, we got an eye on you, Kang. He said that for Wanda's benefit, to distract her from worrying about Pietro. But see what I mean, though? That Cap thinks that Kang is too proud. He's too regal. He's not, a petty criminal. And so he can be trusted, at least for the moment. But I like, too, Kang says faster, even at this moment. Well, there's a couple of things of note here. Let me back up. So Hawkeye, of course, has to say something smart. And by smart, I mean annoying, not smart as in having any intelligence. He says, this is the nuttiest decision you've made yet, Winghead. That's saying something for Hawkeye. This is the nuttiest decision you've made yet. Next thing we know, you'll be swearing in Dr. Doom. Now, I got to say, that would be pretty cool. If Cap could swear in Dr. Doom as an Avenger, man, I'm there for it. But anyway, he says, so Hawkeye just randomly throws out Dr. Doom, right? And Kang thinks, Dr. Doom, little do they dream how closely related I am to the greatest arch villain of all time. And Doctor Doom has to be the greatest arch villain of all time because he's the main villain of the Fantastic Four, who at that time were the flagship comic of Marvel with Stan and Jack working on it. So therefore, the biggest villain in the flagship comic must be the greatest arch villain of all time. But there's no time for that now, Kang says. And there's, I think, some irony in Kang saying there's no time for that. He says out loud, faster, even at this moment, Baltag may be ordering Ravonna's execution. If any harm should befall the princess, our alliance ends. It will then be Kang against all in the battle of all time. I don't know about you guys. That's kind of what I was wanting to happen. I was wanting to see Kang against all in the battle of all time. I'm like, why don't we get that story? That's the story I'm looking forward to. And it's just kind of Avengers Forever in a way, and a few others. Kang, I guess Kang Dynasty. There's a lot of Kang. There's a lot of Kang stories out there, and we're gonna encounter them all before we're done. All right, moments later, and by the way, I am looking forward to doing going through all 12 issues of Avengers Forever with you guys. I believe Carlos Pacheco just passed away last month, which is really sad. He was a great artist. I believe I saw Kurt Busiek mentioning that online and on social media. But I'm looking forward to going through Avengers Forever because even as big an Avengers fan as I am and have been for so long, you know, I'm learning a lot doing this series of videos with you guys. And I'm learning a lot of stuff I never really like either knew or just skimmed over or processed when I didn't process fully when I read these the first time years ago. And I'm looking forward to understanding everything that's going on in Avengers Forever better now than I did the first time. I got the story the first time, but I'm sure I missed a few, you know, Easter eggs and references and things that I'm going to try to appreciate when we go through it again together. But that's a little way in the future. So let's finish up 24. So Ravonna and Kang here, and Kang is speaking nicely to her, and she says, "I've never heard that tone in your voice before," to Kang. And then Cap comes in and kind of vouches for Kang, and Ravonna says, "Captain America, you speak for Kang? I do not understand. Neither did I until minutes ago." And then Kang says, "Explain the situation, Avengers. She will believe you." So Cap kind of lays out his plans, and they're going to fight to the death. And they raid the armory. It's odd. All right, so here's Baltag. I guess those were assassins. That wasn't actually Baltag and his men earlier. It wasn't clear. It was like just assassins he sent. But the conspirators are already having second thoughts. Baltag says, "The princess has escaped. Kang is still at large, and the Avengers are missing. Heads shall roll if they are not found soon." Not soon found. So what Baltag has done is like he's taken on the leadership role Kang had, the sort of moral outrage position of sitting there complaining a lot. But Kang like led from the front, right? Kang had his weapons, his armor, and his time travel, and he was out there leading his army, whereas Baltag is just kind of sitting there complaining that his minions aren't doing things fast enough. And so one of the other minions that's in this conspiracy thinks to himself, where Kang would have given brilliantly conceived orders, Baltag merely mouths empty threats. I gotta be honest, Kang mouths a lot of empty threats too. "We have sided with the wrong man, but the harm is already done. What shall we do, sire? What is your command?" And Baltag says, "Can no one think for himself? Must I make every decision? Keep searching, double the guard. I am surrounded by enemies. I must never be left unprotected." I love that because it just shows that he doesn't want to make decisions. He just wants the power of Kang, the position of Kang, but not really like any of the responsibilities, which is pretty funny. So, and then Stan notes in the commentary at the top, "In the far future, even as today, the key to victory in battle is leadership. Though the attacking force is small," that would be the Kang Avengers force, Ravonna, "it is disciplined, with command shared equally by the mighty Avengers and by the greatest military genius the world has ever known, Kang the Conqueror." I like that Kang is the greatest military genius the world's ever known. That's pretty cool. And so there's a battle and a battle and a battle, and they're wondering what happened to Pietro. Kang gets into the control center, starts using weapons, and the Avengers keep fighting, and they win. And now, by the way, Wanda does start using her hex power. Now that my hex power has returned to its full strength, I fear no man that lives. Well, good, you shouldn't. And then, yay, it's over. We've won. I want to say one other big thing about this issue that I need to make. Of course, Quicksilver comes back and gets the reunion. But I want to say one other thing that's very important about this issue. This is the first Avengers story that has an ending that to me doesn't feel rushed. I feel like every single Avengers story we've covered so far through the first 23 issues, especially the ones that end the story, like the second, like not 23, but like 22, that was the end of the Power Man story and all that. I felt like we've talked about this, right? You get to the next to last page and things are still completely up in the air, and Stan has to kind of like cram 9 or 10 or 11 boxes onto one page and get the ending in quickly. But he kind of does that here on page 19. I like that he paces this issue out a little bit better, and maybe Don Heck had something to do with that. I don't know. But you get the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 panels, which seems like a lot because they have so much dialogue in them. I mean, that's a big part of it is this page has a lot of, all right, let's see how many, there's a caption, another caption, that's 2, and then word balloons, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23 word balloons in 7 panels. Stan it's no wonder he couldn't write, he tried to write every issue that Marvel produced for a while there, but there was no way he could, because it's just a lot of writing. I mean, there's probably more dialogue on these 2 pages than in my Pulsar comic book put together, because you don't want it to be nothing but words. You want to, allow the artist to breathe and to shine, and the story to tell itself visually as well as verbally. So again, this is just the way comics were back then. Stan was very verbose. But anyway, I think this is the page where they kind of cram a lot of developments in, especially here in the bottom 3 panels. There's the reunion of Quicksilver with Wanda. Ravonna kind of comes around to maybe Kang's not such a bad guy, at least toward her. She sees his nobility. And then on the last page, okay, to be fair, we do get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It is kind of that typical last. I guess what it is it's still that typical Stan cram in a lot at the very end, but it's more of an epilogue, honestly. So like the main story kind of ends here over a 2-page spread that's more able to breathe a little bit, even with all those word balloons. But on the last page, we get kind of a twist epilogue, and it's going to be very important going forward to the future, right? Because Kang sends the Avengers back home, but just as they're going away, they see one of it's Baltag, yeah. Baltag himself jumps out from the wall with a gun, and he aims to shoot Kang, but Ravonna gets in the way while admitting, I realize at last I do truly love Ravonna. And then Baltag is like blown away by all the other troops. The Avengers go back home, but back in Kang world, Ravonna, have I gained your love at last, only to have won it too late? Perhaps 'tis just as well, my lord. Perhaps was never meant to be. All right, that's super, super important, because, and then Stan even mentions, will the Avengers ever find out what what happened? And then, yeah, the Avengers right here. I wonder, will we ever know about Kang and Ravonna as they're back home? Well, 2 things here. 1, so the Avengers are still wondering about Kang and Ravonna. Well, 3 things. And then 2, we're going to find out later what becomes of this, because Kang tries to save Ravonna's life, and that kind of becomes his whole big motivation going forward the next couple of times we see him, I believe. So we're going to see him again, or maybe not the next couple of times, but before too long, right? We're going to get more of this Kang and Ravonna, whatever happened to Ravonna business. And then lastly, we get another little twist where it says, and back at Avengers headquarters, we see the Avengers looking up. Perhaps if the Avengers realized their every move was being monitored by a pair of hate-filled eyes, they would quickly forget about the tableau they have just left. As for us, we have wonderment without end awaiting us next month. Enough said. Now, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, because I have a theory here. The next issue, number 25, has Dr. Doom as the main villain. So I'm going to assume this is Dr. Doom watching the Avengers because he's interested in Kang. And we kind of get that at the beginning of the next issue, is that Dr. Doom is interested in Kang. He's curious about Kang, and he's watching the Avengers because they just dealt with and interacted with Kang. So that's all. A possible Dr. Doom Kang connection is kind of hanging there. We had Kang mentioned it earlier in this issue. We have Dr. Doom kind of in silhouette here watching now. And that's kind of where we leave off. So once again, we've had a two-part issue. The first issue sets up the situation. The second issue resolves it, but with a nice couple of twists here that don't mainly feature the Avengers, right? This is mostly Kang and Ravonna, and this is Dr. Doom. So we're kind of setting things up for the future. I really like that. All right, let's look at the letters page quickly. There's the bullpen bulletins. Very different from the bullpen bulletins I grew up reading just a few years earlier. Let's see. We've got letters from Eddie Holderman, Frank Eisgruber, Gary Hood, Sally Craig in Chicago, Stephen Gita, George Sakiris, I feel like I should know that name, Lawrence Moyer in Canada, in Ontario, Mike Olivella, Terre Haute, Indiana. I believe that's where Ray R. O'Reilly's from. Richard Walls in Des Moines, Iowa. Terre Haute, Indiana, and Des Moines, Iowa. It's Wetumpka, Iowa, I'm thinking about, yeah. And then finally, Jim Nuffer in Mexico. So we get quite a variety of letters here. People talking about the swordsman and that, all that. A lot of discussion about the swordsman, everything. People suggesting other Avengers that should join. The Hulk should be an Avenger. Doctor Strange. I don't think Doctor Strange would be a good addition. He has too many magical enemies. Let's leave black magic out of the Avengers. All right. Okay, next issue. Don't just sit there. Have you figured out who our sensational villain is next issue? Yeah, because I have the time travel ability of Kang to look at what Avengers 25 actually looks like. All right, so that brings us to the end of Avengers 25. I hope you guys enjoyed our little walk through it. I thought it was interesting in that we got, I think, a lot of the beginnings of where Kang is going to go as a character in the future. And with the Ravonna plot there too. We got another one of these two-part stories that seems to work really well for Cap's Cookie Quartet. I'm expecting that for 25 and 26, but I haven't peeked ahead that far yet, and it's been way too long since I read them last to just know. But we'll see. We're going to follow this thread as far as it goes. All right, so join me again next time as we look at Avengers 25, maybe 26. Sometimes I do one issue, sometimes I do two. For Kang, I felt like we needed separate issues to get into all this. And I'll see you guys on the next video. Avengers Assemble.